All right, so everyone seems super tired, but we have really interesting topic. So we will once again delve into what to expect in future. It's extremely difficult to talk about future, about technologies and how it will shape our world, but we have a world-leading experts who have very much deep experience about working with different types of technology. So I want to introduce more deeply our speakers. First one is Dr. Brown is a founding director of the Data Science Institute, and the W.S. Calcott Professor of the Department of Systems and Information Engineering, and co-director of the Transnational Health Institute of Virginia, University of Virginia. Please. All right. Our second speaker is Professor Nasir Memon. Nasir Memon is a professor of Department of Computer Science and Engineering at New York University, Tandon School of Engineering in New York. Please meet our next speaker. Natalia Panina is a vice president at SAP. Natalia is driving the SAP Public Services in Middle and Eastern Europe as a general manager, evangelist of digital transformation, program manager, and speaker, please. And finally, Navin Rajaram. He is a leading the digital data and analytics discipline for the HSBC Retail Bank. Navin is accountable for driving the use of digital consumer and market data to underneath business value, enhance customer experience, as well as improve the digital maturity across the HSBC retail and wealth management business globally. All right, so today we'll be talking about technologies. Dr. Brown, please tell us what to expect from future, what kind of technologies are emerging, and where should we be more cautious about?
Okay. There's this famous joke in the United States by Yogi Berra that prediction is really hard, particularly of the future, and it's with all that background that I'll say these are cautious, but the kinds of things I'm going to say are pretty darn obvious in some ways. So the first one I'll say is I've got three areas that I think are positive about what I see as the future in digital technology, information technology, and one that I see as negative. Okay, and there are many more. So there will be plenty here for our speakers to talk about. But the first one I will say is the immersive technologies. The immersive technologies are going to continue to explode, and we think about things like self-driving cars. Obviously, in transportation, it's all over the place. It's all over the place in manufacturing. Immersive technologies are going to expand in all of those areas. We're going to see them more and more in health as well. I mean, we see them right now in things like artificial pancreas, which provides diabetics with a way to control their disease. I think you're going to see that for many more chronic illnesses as well. Immersive technologies are there to help individuals manage their disease patterns. And I think these kind of immersive technologies in general are going to expand. The second area is obviously the area of data science. We're going to see continued expansion. And this is going to be things that are really obvious, like machine learning. We're going to see areas like in deep learning, adversarial learning. These kinds of things continue to make headway against extremely difficult problems. We're going to see integration technologies, merging of data. That's going to continue, and that, in fact, I consider to be absolutely essential. We're going to see these pipelines of data through analytics, so that people don't have to continually go in and create what we need in the way of structures to bring the data to the analytics. We're going to see those expand. Another area that we're going to see is the simulation technologies. People talked about digital twins this morning, but I think that what you'll see is that the simulation technologies are going to get even more expansive. We're going to be able to do high-speed simulations much quicker to help answer decision problems. They're going to be at I'll say at the level of the state, but they're going to be at the level of the individual. Again, back to health, we have these things called virtual image of a patient, which is like a digital twin. So we can basically make decisions about treatments by simulating you and see how you will react to the different kinds of treatments. That's going to continue. That right now is at its very, very beginning. I think you're going to see that expand. The third area I'll say in the sort of positive realm is openness. At the risk of well, maybe we'll get a little controversial discussion about SAP and other organizations. There's absolutely a need for that, but I think what you're seeing globally is that in the digital area, in the information technology area, people are moving much more toward open systems and making systems way more open, and that's expanding not only in the database or the data repository realm, obviously in the analytics realm with things like Python that we're all familiar with, but it's going across everything. It's going to publications where there's a tremendous feeling that we've got to get away from the models that we've had for letting information out and data in general. If we're going to have reproducibility, if we're going to do true science, there has to be much, much better openness. And I think that's going to expand. The whole area of openness in general, I think, in digital technology is going to expand. Okay, the one negative that I'll mention that's clearly going to continue to smack us, and that's malware. It's not going away. It's only getting worse. Our ability to control it is getting more and more difficult. I think we're viewing it very much the way that we do, the common cold and these low-grade things that we just tolerate. We tolerate a certain level of bacteria and viruses in our lives, in the biologic world. We're tolerating it now. We've gotten to the point where we're just tolerating it because we can't deal with it. It's only the real extreme situations that we're trying to deal with. That's only going to get worse. I think we're going to see continue, just like we're seeing, if you will, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. We're seeing the same thing happening in the area of malware. And I'd love to tell you, I've tried to paint a positive picture in these other areas, and I love to paint a positive picture all across the board, but you really can't. It's only going to get worse, and our ability to control it is going to get more and more difficult. And I frankly don't see how we're going to do it other than to just say we'll tolerate the low-level stuff and just focus efforts against the big stuff.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nasir Memon. He is also co-founder of the Center for Cybersecurity at NYU, and I think you have plenty to say about malwares, maybe, and cyber threats that's existing right now. And tell also about what do you think would be a general trends in technology in future.
Right.
Now.
So picking up on the, is this working? Yeah. Picking up on the malware aspect of things, yeah, I agree. It's not going to be positive. Clearly, we don't know how to secure systems yet, and things are not going to get better in the short run. But I think in the medium to long term, we will sort of get a handle on it. Meanwhile, what might happen is, so essentially, interaction among humans and society in general relies on trust, right? And when trust gets eroded, you need security mechanisms in it. Security brings back that trust mechanism, right? Sort of enforcing trust, if you will. And you have to pay a price for security, right? So security is going to become more expensive, definitely. We will start perhaps disconnecting a little bit. It's that free flow of information that we are becoming used to perhaps will get impacted. Hopefully, the government doesn't come in with regulations for backdoors and things like that, because security will make things only worse. I mean, that will only make security worse. But regulations will come in, especially once we have some, especially what's going on today with respect to things like deep fakes and things like that. The government is really beginning to start thinking about regulating platforms and making them responsible for these things, which will impact us. So yeah, I agree that we really don't have a handle on security. And tomorrow I'll talk a little bit about some of these things. About the positive things, of course, AI, machine learning, as you talked about. Uh, and more than that, I think it is not as if we will have automated systems that simply run the whole shop and we sit and drink coffee, but it'll be humans and machines working together. So this whole human and robots or human and AI interfaces and how they work together, that whole aspect will evolve. We'll have to learn. We'll get better at doing that. Drones, for example, autonomous vehicles. Uh, quite often they're humans that are controlling them behind, right? So when Amazon is going to be delivering your package in a remote area by a drone, there's somebody kind of watching it and making it land somewhere in Timbuktu, wherever it is. But there is a human in the loop, and I think you will see more of that happening in ID systems. Um, Another area where I think digitization more broadly will bring in efficiencies is manufacturing. Manufacturing is now also going through this massive digitization process, additive manufacturing, 3D printing, and things like that. And those will bring new efficiencies to the sort of efficiency, to the speed and the cost with which we can manufacture. And that'll also bring security concerns. That's a different topic, but those two come to my mind. And of course, blockchains and Internet of Things. And there are a million buzzwords out there. Some of them probably you'll start seeing them making more progress than they have in the past few years. Let me stop that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Navin, so in a business, it's very difficult to orient ourselves in all of these buzzwords as Mr. Nasir has mentioned. So how do you think business have to adapt, and what kind of, how they need to transform itself in order to embrace new technologies? And also comment, so Mr. Nasir told us about blockchain technology. Maybe it's kind of a one way of building trust between different parties. Can you comment on that?
Sure. Again, all of the things that we mentioned in terms of AI, machine learning, and some of the disruptive technologies around robotics, they're definitely sort of front of mind from a business standpoint. I think the way businesses internationally are adapting themselves to this massive technology revolution is actually be part of the technology revolution themselves. What I mean by that is, it's how do we, previously technology used to be these capabilities that used to sit on one side that, there's an IT project going on there. But what we're starting to do, and what we're starting to do more effectively, is turn ourselves into technology companies. What I mean by that is, for example, Agile. Agile used to be primarily in the domain of technology in the way that we started to build systems. In business, Agile is now the way we operate. The other way of looking at it is, in a lot of businesses, there's primarily a product mindset. Now, as we start to use and bring technology closer to our customers, we in business need to have a laser focus on customer experience and start to clearly define use cases where we adopt that technology and bring technology closer to the problems that we're trying to solve. So in a sense, we have to be very technology oriented and be technology savvy. So there isn't a differentiation between sort of here's a business person, here's a technology person anymore. They are one and the same, and they're coming much closer together. So on that basis, when you start to look at the evolution of fintechs in the market, a lot of these are primarily around laser focus on customer and customer pain points, and what we can use technology to quickly adapt and start to build solutions that customers start to use. And there are as many sort of successes as there are failures within this, and we hear about a lot of the fintechs which are highly successful in addressing specific pain points and growing from there. And there are other pitfalls as well, particularly within banking and finance, where the regulatory landscape is quite difficult to navigate through, and some of the pitfalls are within that area as well. So I think coming back to this is about how business is starting to adopt a technology mindset and be more technology savvy in being able to bring technology closer to addressing the problems for the customer and therefore growing their businesses on top of that. So that's kind of, in essence, what we see as a major trend within businesses.
All right, so we'll come to blockchain question back. So Natalia, I want to ask, once you have implemented all these technologies, you need to have a certain tracking system, right? Mr. Navin told that we need to laser focus on customer experience, and all of the data will, gather to the company's, BI system or other types of system. So what do you think, what kind of capabilities companies need to build in order to be able to analyze, build models, and at the end of the day, try to predict customer behavior or behavior of other subjects?
So, I want to open you one secret. Data without proper governance and without setting the task, why do you need this data in any business, in public sector, whatever we are talking about here today? It's just nothing about. I remember my experience 7 years ago when I was mostly involved in energy and natural resources. And we visited one of the refinery in Lukoil. And oil and gas is really very advanced industry, yeah? They should be very marginal, high marginal industry, especially in area of refinery. And these huge machines, which split crude oil to fractions, of course, they are served by best engineers, yeah, whatever time. And just ask them, okay, you have your sensors data from every piece of this equipment. It's just like a Christmas tree. Let's sit together and analyze your data. I was really so surprised. They said, why? What to analyze? We are serving one per month. We are doing maintenance. What kind of data analysis you want from us? And this time we failed really to work with this refinery. And ultimately I understood the type and quality of data they have. Something based on manual logs, something in the system, something on the level of middleware. It's just data are not readable. But why? Because nobody asked themselves, and chief engineer did not set the task to his crew. Let's collect pure data. Let's set the business task for analysis. Just saying in overall, data which really everywhere, structured, unstructured data, could be captured from data lakes, should be converted into smart data. But what does it mean? That means that particular Ministry of Finance or head of tax agency or refinery, chief engineer of refinery, they should say what do they want to analyze and what do they want to predict for what. It should be economic value behind. This is why we now already, it was predicted already many years ago that the most popular and required occupation will be business analytics, yeah? And we now already really experience a huge gap to find such a profile of people. To find data scientists, even in Gazprom, it's really a huge problem, to be honest, yeah? Even in German ministries of interior or foreign affairs, it's just maybe luckily that a Ministry of Foreign Affairs is served by Bundeswehr, they have a huge institute, but in other ministries, it's just near impossible. That is what I'm it was a preamble to answer your question. Yes, we should start with small steps. And Tunduk shows really great progress that requirements to the data sets, quality of database, structure of data coming from one governmental center, from this agency. They are saying what do they want to get in their Tunduk Shin from different ministries. And this is a foundation. They started properly. And in 1 year, I'm 100% sure volume of data, quality of data will be good enough to think about robust analytical platform on top. BI is the next step for every organization who think about to build data-driven models, data-driven business or data-driven government, whatever business task we have. And once we have clear data, once we have analytics on top, nothing prevents us from just very easy use, either machine learning to build any predictions or train machine where to go. Or, it's a recommendation, but we are humans, and that means we listening, we are seeing those recommendations, but decision making process on us. Did I answer?
Yeah, thank you so much, Natalia. So recently I've downloaded an app which tracks, so collects information from my smartwatch for a month, and it can predict how long I can live. So if I do workouts, and it can add, a couple of years. If I do something wrong, then 5 years is minus. So Dr. Brown, so we are talking a lot about, data, but what are the concerns related to data, especially when we talk about health, maybe longevity business, and in this industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, particularly in the health area, we absolutely have to watch out what we make available. This is a major thing, and we really try very, very hard to make sure that we're protecting the health data that we collect on people. On the other hand, I mentioned this at a lunch meeting. Frankly, the sharing of data is key to solving most of the health problems we have. So we're in this trade-off kind of space. And we're constantly looking at ways to, quote, de-identify the data as much as we can to make it so that we can share it. There are challenges with that. There are challenges because there's certain things that, frankly, you can't de-identify so easily when you look at the data that's available to us. But it is a concern because, frankly, if you look, clearly the most, we're talking about facial recognition, and our speaker from China gave us some interesting examples of the uses of facial recognition that I've got to say I'd never thought about to allocate toilet paper. That will stay with me for a very long time. But if you think about it, the human genome, the data that's in that about us is everything. That is us. So when you talk about protecting it, it goes all the way from that to these other little bits and pieces of data about each one of us that basically makes up the whole. And at the end of the day, I think that the key to what we think about when we think particularly about health data is it's our data. And to the extent, there are plenty of cases where people are absolutely committed to making that data available because they are going through these kinds of conditions. There's a great book about this case in the United States, looking at a woman who had an incredibly rare type of cancer that produced, and continues to this day, her genes continue to produce magnificent results. The sharing of that by her family has now gotten together and worked out arrangements to continue to provide that. And that data is so powerful. It's giving us incredible results. But it was her data and now her families. And that's the way we need to think about it. We need to always remember the data of that type belongs to those individuals that are providing it for those purposes.
Oh, thank you so much. Professor Nasir, when we talk about data, we've seen a lot in the news that Yahoo's emails were hacked, and all of the emails were made public, and there's a lot of data that was leaked by hackers. So I'm really curious about what defines the price of leaked data. As a cybersecurity expert, can you comment on that? What's happening in a black market of data?
You're right. So what defines the price is simply the ease with which they can steal it, right? You can buy somebody's credit card number, that digit, that secret whatever code, expiration date, etc., for like $5, right? Social security number, maybe 25 cents or whatever, right? So nobody sells gold for the price silver. Nobody sells silver for the price of gold, right? So when something is being sold just for a few dollars, your bank account information with the password and everything else you may need to get into somebody's bank account is just cost a few tens of dollars, right? So that means it's so easy for them to get that data, and the price probably reflects that. And so from a security point of view, talking about data more broadly, we should treat data as toxic, right? When we have data, it's like nuclear waste we have sitting around next to us, because it's going to create problems for us unless we take care of it very, very well. So there's talk about data-centric security and focusing on the data, encrypting it, of course, but it's not as easy as simply encrypting it. You have to manage the keys and all that stuff. But yeah, the price simply reflects our inability to protect it.
So my next question to Mr. Navin. So I've talked with security experts, and they shared an opinion that it's getting more and more complicated to hack certain systems from abroad, and it's much cheaper to to have a deal with internal staff in order for them to open access. So what do you do to ensure in your company so that these kind of things do not happen? And what are your recommendations for organizations to keep their security level in such levels that that majority of threats are removed?
So at HSBC specifically, I think a lot of this is primarily about awareness, and secondarily about how we manage our relationships or interactions within our bank, especially with our staff and our employees. And this is something that at HSBC we take pretty seriously. I'm not an expert in basically the negative repercussions of it, but as an HSBC employee, we undergo regular touch points and regular training on issues such as cybersecurity, phishing, to stay vigilant on understanding what works and what doesn't, and just staying on top of that. The other thing is, as managers, we are also trained to work with our employees to understand whether somebody is going through financial hardship, and see how best we can help and encourage them and stay open and have an open relationship with them, and basically keep on top of that. I think so that is primarily what we do from a bank's perspective, to basically ensure that we have a good community of employees and within people to be able to mitigate such risks. I think the key really is awareness, and key really is staying on top of it.
Yeah, thank you. So, Shaukat, I hope that there is no cybersecurity panel discussion, because we've, slowly slided it into that topic, and because, this is something that concerns us a lot, right? If you talk about, emerging technologies and, what are the implication and bad implication is especially important for us. So, Natalia, let's come back to the future technologies, and you've mentioned about that cloud technologies are being heavily used in data storage, for pulling out the data for analytics. So can you share us a little bit more about what did you meant by that?
Because volume of data growing every day, we have more and more smart city scenarios where IoT really becoming a key player. Yeah, we have already in Germany a lot of cases, like for example in city of Heidelberg, when we have all the glass containers equipped with sensors, and transportation company and waste company who are serving those containers see from different angles the situation, fulfillment, we see the temperature, they know when, how to optimize the route. So those data should be collected, they should be available for analysis and providing insight into business process. It's what I want to say, that in comparison with usage of ERP 10 years ago, the whole, let's say, data recording ecosystem becoming much more complicated, yeah? How can you imagine if even city of Heidelberg, which is located, I don't know, 13 kilometers from SAP, is the biggest taxpayer of this area, can allow to buy new servers, to pay more money for additional IT engineers, to maintenance crew, whatever. It's Heidelberg. If we will think about village 100 kilometers, can they allow to do that? Not at all. But they also want to consume technologies, they consume the value of technologies. This is one side of the story, that all these super machines available from Hewlett-Packard or Cisco, whatever company, hardware vendor, now could really treat data, but in cloud. It's a very, very natural trend. And on the other hand side, the cost of data becoming higher. How to minimize costs, even providing data for development, for treatment, for analytics in cloud, to increase openness. For example, we as SAP 2 years ago decided to go for openness. And you probably heard about SAP HANA. This is a HANA database. But now we are offering not only HANA on-premise, but SCP, HANA Cloud Platform, which open enough, it's another version of HANA, and we are fully ready to deploy our platform based on hyperscalers. Google Web Services, Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, which minimize the cost of ownership and dealing with data. This is a trend. I hope everybody goes to the cloud. And what is also important, costs could be diminished, but I would say that to hack professional data center is much harder than just on-prem servers which is staying under your table. So that cybersecurity is much more robust in such cloud environments. This is our future, and this is exactly only the way how value of data could be gained.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your insights. We are running out of the time, but I have a challenge question for you. So if you had $1 million, in what technologies you would invest? So please, Dr. Brown, we'll start from you, and each speaker will have 2 minutes to answer to that question.
It's for investing in technologies. It's not for going down on my vacation to,
Yes, investing.
or my
Just
retirement,
investing, yeah.
I should say. I can't put it into a quick retirement. Okay, so what things would I invest in? Well, you know, it's a little bit biased for me, but I mean, I see these machine learning technologies as the thing that I frankly think are going to provide real breakthrough kind of capabilities for us in a lot of areas. So I think that I would clearly invest in that. I would invest in that thing I mentioned earlier about that data pipeline. That one is, the thing that's slowing people up right now in a lot of cases on getting data to something useful is the pipeline. The analytics are there, but a lot of times they just can't get the data to the analytics. And it costs a lot of it costs a lot of energy. And frankly, the fastest growing profession in the Valley, as well as in the East Coast for us with regard to data, is what are called data engineers. And they're the people who are making that possible. So I think those are the areas that I'd probably invest in.
All right, thank you. Mr. Nasir?
Yeah. Am I allowed to keep it as cash? No.
No, you're not. Yeah, you have to invest.
No, I was just kidding. So probably health, right? Because there's, with again, digitization, with a better understanding about how the body works and how aging works, for example. Health, there will be massive developments in health, and we will all live, not you and me maybe, but our children will live 200 years, and health technology will get us there. And I think if I make a long-term bet, probably it'll be in health.
All right, you should invest fast so that we can, take 200 years as well. Yeah, please.
So for me, it's actually investing in people. For me, I would rather invest in people that utilize and make use of the technology to drive an outcome that is useful, as opposed to simply investing in technology for technology's sake. And that for me is, I think, the biggest differentiator in businesses and organizations that really succeed in using technology and using data to really make a difference, as opposed to others that are also RANs. So basically, yes, invest in people, and invest in people as much as we can.
All right, thank you so much.
Can I split my investments?
Yes, you can, actually.
First, you said 1 million. $500,000, I would say I would invest into technologies which really help people to simplify process of usage technologies. It is why 200 I would dedicate to robotic process automation, to grow appetite, to use technologies, but without huge investments to see the result. Yeah, 300 I would absolutely agree. Data pipelining is our future. We don't want to build 10 years, one ERP here, another ERP there. We just want to smartly to consume data from different sources and be sure that data working for us. But apart from simplification, we need to serve smart ideas. That is the second $500,000. I would invest into startups who has great ideas. For example, like blood analytics or whatever idea would be executed to protect the people's life.
All right, thank you so much. Do you have questions for the speakers? Yeah, please.
As a person who's had their identity stolen more than once, including having someone file an income tax return in my name, I see these massive data breaches from governments, insurance companies, and banks. And I'm under the impression that they don't do even basic security, such as having encrypted databases. Is this impression incorrect?
Well, responding as a bank, as HSBC, the way we see our customers' data is we are custodians of our customers' data. We treat it with absolute care and with absolute security. So we are, it's not just a regulatory mandate, but also incumbent on our businesses to protect data as much as much as we can protect our lives. So we take data protection, customer data protection extremely seriously and invest in it quite a lot.
Right, so, yeah, please.
Здравствуйте, меня зовут Болотбек Марипов, и я хотел бы задать вопрос не столько о светлых сторонах цифровизации, ее выгодах, сколько о темной стороне. Когда-то давно, 29 лет назад, я, будучи студентом физического факультета в Московском университете, я проводил лабораторные измерения, значит, свойств полупроводников в жидком азоте, и у меня, значит, вся автоматика была, это контроллер у которого память была 256 килобайт. Вчера я для своего смартфона пошел и купил, значит, карту памяти 128 гиг. Ну, значит, за это время произошло увеличение, ну, значит, используемой памяти в 500 тысяч раз. Вот. И еще одна отсылка в прошлое. Значит, когда-то в СССР наше население было самым читающим в мире. Сейчас мы видим тоже читающих людей, но упертых взглядом в смартфон. И, к сожалению, в большинстве случаев вряд ли они читают там что-то познавательное. Сейчас я работаю в банковской системе, и я отметил одну вещь, что ну, вот с улучшением автоматизации, с появлением новых автоматизированных банковских систем резко уменьшилось количество людей, понимающих в бухгалтерии, понимающих суть банковских, бухгалтерских операций. Они просто нажимают кнопки. Большинство выпускников, это я знаю на своем опыте, сегодня не могут сложить дроби, они не могут высчитать процент. В общем, видно, что новые технологии меняют не только наш образ жизни, но и нас самих. Поэтому я хочу задать вопрос. Несомненно, есть много плюсов от цифровизации, но какие вы видите сопутствующим с этим угрозы? Спасибо.
All right, so I just noticed that you don't have this translation mic. So the question was that with the technology, a lot of skills like reading or math skills are degrading in the examples that the gentleman gave. So Natalia, maybe you can take on that question. So we've discussed a bit about this topic. Maybe you can add more.
Provocative question. Yes, you are right. I have a granddaughter. She prefers just coming from the school every day. She just switching on the TV. It's everything what she prefers. It's really a nightmare to explain her. Let's go to do math classes. Let's do something like that, writing. Maybe we need to use gamification because Generation Z, which is my granddaughter already, really do not understand these boring stuff. I would say that the whole story should start from the childhood and reconsideration of school programs going into gamification, using smartphones, laptops, but providing the knowledge. This is what could change. But I completely agree that this is a big threat and we need to do something urgently.
Okay, on that note, I will be ending this panel session. Thank you so much for your attention and see you soon, right? All right, applauses please. Thank you.